Hey, y'all, welcome into our Week 16 pregame live chat. This is your Bud Light Ingredients to Saints Success live chat. And if you stick around, we'll have Deuce McAllister's Ingredients to Saints Success later on in the show. I don't think it's particularly complicated what we'll be looking at when the Saints take the field today, Monday Night Football at the Caesars Superdome. It's not going to be the Saints that you remember. It's not going to be the Saints that you particularly recognize. It's going to be a group of mostly backups. It's going to be a group of, practice squad players, to be completely honest. And we're going to have to see what happens. But let's get into it. My name is Jeff Nowak, WWL Digital Sports producer, coming at you from my green screened home office here. I will not be in attendance at the Dome tonight. It just doesn't seem like a smart thing to do for no reason. All of the interviews are remote anyway, so I decided to stay home this week as the COVID surges, and hopefully I'll be able to get back out there next week for Week 17. But for now, I'm coming at you from the home base, and we're going to have to figure this out. Remember to throw your comments, questions, hot takes, whatever, in the feed, and we'll get to them in the back half. Hopefully we get Deuce in here shortly, and we'll answer some of those questions. For now, let's go through some of the things that we know. First things first, none of the Saints players who went on the COVID list have come off the COVID list, and that is very disappointing for a number of reasons. One being, the NFL changed its rules over the last week or so to try to help asymptomatic players get back more quickly. They eliminated the 24 hours you need to wait in between tests to log your negative tests. I'm sorry. They made it so you can take those tests concurrently, right? That apparently did not help the Saints. Either they're all exhibiting symptoms or none of them are able to log a negative test or be below the threshold that you need to be at to come back. That's disappointing. A lot of these players went on COVID early in the week. You would hope that with that extra data Monday, you're able to get some of it back, right? Somebody, at least some special teams contributors. And no, you are not. Taysom Hill is not there. Trevor Siemian is not there. DeMario Davis is not there. Malcolm Jenkins is not there. Quan Alexander is not there. JT Gray is not there. And this is just part of the list. I'm not going to go through the entire list because it's 21 names. Even the guy, Deontay Harris, wasn't even going to play because he is suspended. But he is also on the COVID list. The suspended players are not being spared either. It's hitting everybody, and it's a very difficult thing to deal with from both a football perspective and from a daily life perspective. It's hitting everybody, and football is just the tip of the iceberg. But I will say it's very disappointing to me the NFL did not move this game back a day, because to me that indicates that they're making this decision based on money, based on that Monday Night Football contract they don't want to give up. Which is fine if that's what you make all your decisions with that energy. Except last week we were moving games back for very similar situations. Players were testing positive up until yesterday. Quan Alexander went on the COVID list today. And if the whole point is to avoid active transmission, then what are we doing? And if the whole point is to maintain the bottom line, fine. Make that decision, keep that energy, at least through all of your decision making, because you know what? It's the NFL's world. We're just trying to keep up. I'm just trying to figure out what the rules are and how to and what I'm supposed to expect on a daily basis. And that's what the teams are trying to do. And if you can't move this game back 24 hours with players testing positive all the way up until kickoff, what are we doing? Anyway, move on. We don't need to get into more of that. This game is being played. In Ian Book. Rookie quarterback Ian Book. All the puns you can imagine. Another great noun name, Ian Book, former Notre Dame star, is going to get the start. We're going to see what he has. Saints were confident in him. They took him in the fourth round. They did, a lot of people said that you probably didn't have to take him in the fourth round. You probably could have waited, got him in the fifth or sixth round. The Saints were confident they wanted to get him. He was their guy, and they went and got him in the fourth round. They had projected a lot of confidence in Ian Book. Can he live up to it? It's a tough situation, man. It's a tough situation for anybody going into this game. It'd be a tough situation for Taysom Hill. It'd be a tough situation for Trevor Siemian. But at least they have the benefit of experience in the NFL. You're asking a rookie quarterback to go out there. Hopefully, Teron Armstead can play. We're going to get into the inactives a little bit, but Teron Armstead listed as questionable. We're going to see if he can go. That would be a big addition for a team that's been playing without either tackle for the better part of the last month. He's listed as questionable. He was projected to have been a participant in practice on Saturday. Now, it's kind of a strange thing because the Saints didn't practice on Saturday. So it's all a projection. But it does project confidence that they think that he's going to be a potential go in this game, which would be probably the only returning player who you were unclear on. Ryan Ramczyk is out with COVID. Probably wasn't going to play anyway. He wasn't in practice. So, man, Sean Payton is back. He missed last week with COVID, but he is back. So, we're going to see what happens. But first, I wanted to let y'all hear from Ian Book. He spoke earlier in the week. He basically said, you know what? Taysom Hill, Trevor Siemian, they could come back, but I can't plan for that. He went through the entire week as if he was going to be the starter, and he is the starter. Listening to him talk, he sure sounds like a quarterback. That's half the battle, I think, in terms of being prepared and just doing the stuff that you need to do to be able to go out there and compete at a high level. Now, the second half of that equation is the ability to go out there and compete at a high level, which we just haven't been able to see because, the preseason was cut short. You only saw him in one preseason game. He played the second half against the Ravens. He probably would have seen a lot of action in that final preseason game, but obviously it got canceled due to Hurricane Ida. So, we're going in blind. And for what I'll say is that does work at least somewhat to the Saints' advantage because the Dolphins are also going in blind. They don't know what to scout. What are they scouting? We don't know what it's going to look like. They don't either. But here's a bit of what Ian Book had to say, and see what you think.
Night, but I'm not going to play with my mind and say, maybe they come back in time. I'm starting at this point. I'm playing. I plan on playing, and we'll kind of go from there. That's what I got to do this whole entire week to get ready. You can't just flip that switch on Monday morning trying to get ready. It doesn't work like that, especially at the quarterback position. That's what I've learned, and that's what I've learned, talking with all these other quarterbacks this year. I talked to Trevor with it when he was playing. You got to take it the whole week seriously because you never know. And, I was the fourth quarterback on the list. You wouldn't expect things to happen like this, but with COVID, you never know. So just taking it and trying to get a routine has been tough because you can't get into the building, but every day I'm just getting up early and I'm studying. I'm learning as much as I can. I'm excited. It's an unbelievable opportunity is what it is. I'm going to be pretty buzzed. Yeah, I don't know what it's going to feel like. I've played in big games, but I think this is the biggest, obviously. We're professionals now, and it's Monday Night Football. I grew up watching primetime football since I was a little kid, and it's a dream. And I'm just going to keep telling myself, what a great opportunity. There's a million excuses out there, is what I'd say, and we're going to use none of them.
There's a million excuses. It's like, just a natural progression from a Jay-Z song. But the Saints are not going to use them, and they haven't all year. And that's kind of been their mantra is, no one cares how difficult this is for us. They don't care. The Dolphins are going to show up and try to beat the bricks off whoever shows up wearing a Saints uniform. That's not going to change. That's not going to change just because 21 players are on the COVID list. And he's right. But whether you use them as excuses, they can still be used as explanations for what could end up being a very ugly game if it goes the wrong way. Now, and just to continue on that point, one of the only things working in the Saints' favor is the Dolphins have no idea what to expect in terms of how the Saints are going to operate. They have no tape on Ian Book as a starting quarterback. They have no tape on whatever the Saints are going to do offensively with Nick Vannett and Ethan Wolf at the tight end position. They have no tape on what Andrew Dowell and Pete Werner have to offer at linebacker. I think you're going to see a very aggressive Saints defensive front because they have to be, and the defensive rush, the pass rush, is probably the only group on the team that isn't significantly impacted by COVID. You still have Marcus Davenport is questionable. I'd expect him to play. Cam Jordan's there. Carl Granderson is out, so even there you still have something. But at least you have your starters and you can go back from there. It's really the only group. One really disappointing thing that isn't even that relevant to the game, the Saints have had these 3 defensive Iron Men for the last few years, which has really kind of gone unstated in the sense that they never miss games. Between Cam Jordan, Demario Davis, and Malcolm Jenkins. Cam Jordan went into week 14 with the longest consecutive game streak in the NFL. He hadn't missed a game in his NFL career. He missed due to COVID, so that ended. He had the longest consecutive games and starts streak in the NFL. When that ended, Demario Davis, linebacker, moved up to take Cam's spot. And this is excluding kickers because I don't count kickers in this stat because it's, for obvious reasons. Anyway, Demario Davis moved up into that spot. He didn't have the longest consecutive start streak, but Malcolm Jenkins, safety, did. Both are well over 130. I think Demario had 157 consecutive games. Malcolm had 133 consecutive starts. Both of those are going to end this week due to COVID. And that's just it's just adding insult to injury to a season that already had enough injuries and insults. But, there we are. And, that's disappointing for those players because they put a lot of pride into their availability, and not being available when you're not hurt is a tough thing to deal with. And Cam said he considered not even watching the game in week 14. He ended up making a bean dip and watching it. But, that means a lot to these guys. And it's frustrating. I don't know what you can do. There's nothing you can do, but it's frustrating. And you just have to figure out a way to work past it. Yeah. Anyway, we're going in to a game against the Dolphins. One thing I will say about the Dolphins is do not expect a lot of shots downfield. And it's one of the reasons that I think the Saints defense, even undermanned as it is, can still put its mark on this game because you lose Malcolm in the secondary, but you still have Marshawn on the edge. You still have Adebo. You still have Roby. You can cover. You can cover, and you don't have to worry about shots downfield because the Dolphins just don't take them. And if you can force them to take shots downfield, something they just don't do well or are not comfortable doing, then that's a win for the Saints. And you just have to make sure you cover downfield. If they can come up and stop, whatever the Dolphins' run game is going to look like, whether it's Myles Gaskin, I'm blanking on the other guy's name, but it's not Phillip Lindsay. Is he out there? I don't even know. It's a really not a dynamic run game. So the Saints can just pin their ears and try to get to Tua, and I think they will be able to. It's going to be a question of whether they can handle these crossing routes, handle these very tight routes across the middle that are trying to pick defenders and get guys into space. And it's something that the Saints have struggled with in the past, but knowing that you don't have to cover over the top, I think it makes it a little easier. And, the Pete Werner and Andrew Dowell, they can cover. They're fast. So I think you're going to be in decent shape. CJ's out there, and it's going to be about whether the offense can put points on the board. Plain and simple. It's going to be about whether the offense can move the ball. I think you need to score early in this game if you're the Saints. I think you need to take advantage of the uncertainty on the Dolphins side of the ball because the longer this game goes on, the better read they're going to get on what you're able to do on offense, what Ian Book is comfortable doing, what you're trying to do with him and with Kamara and with Ingram and with all these guys out there. The longer the game goes on, it's going to become more and more clear. There will be limitations. At the beginning of the game, the Dolphins won't know exactly what they are. By the end of the game, they will. So I think if the Saints can get a lead and play with a lead in this game, they have a chance to win. If they get behind, it's going to be asking a lot of a rookie quarterback to try to show up and lead a team. Knowing the things we know about the Saints, knowing that they don't have pass catchers that are reliable, knowing that they don't even have the top tight ends that they thought they were going to have, the pass catching weapons that you thought they had at an already thin tight end position. You need to play this game the right way. You need to not turn the ball over, and you need to hope the defense can make Tua uncomfortable, make him second guess some of those quick throws and hold the ball a little longer than he wants to. And if that's the case, you can have an impact. But okay, I'm going to throw to commercial here. Make sure you drop some comments, questions in the chat, and when we come back, I'll hit a few of them. Hopefully, we get Deuce shortly, and then I will throw you back to the broadcast. But hang with me until after the break. All right, we're back. Looks like we have a lot of comments in there. I appreciate everyone jumping in. We got a pretty solid audience today, and I appreciate that. I really enjoy doing these. I enjoy having a lot of people chiming in, telling me what they think, and me shooting you down. No. But let's get back to it. Again, my name is Jeff Nowak, WWL Digital Sports Producer. You can follow me on Twitter at Jeff_Nowak. Make sure to follow the game at WWL AM 870 FM 1053. You can follow that on your laptop or over the air. You got Mike Haas and Deuce McAllister on the call. As always, they're going to have to make some notes ahead of kickoff because of all these players. The Saints essentially called up their entire practice squad. The practice squad is the regular squad. Saints signed a few players, signed a few defensive tackles, some linebacker depth, but you're going to see, here's some names, you're going to see some numbers you were not familiar with, and that's just a fact. But let's see some questions in here. Jerry, good to see you as always. Jerry is probably the highest percentage engager in all of these live chats. He's here for all of them, and I appreciate that. Always has good things to say. Thanks as always, Jerry. Yeah, we got a few blackout posts. That is something the Saints are trying to black out the dome today. So if you're headed to the dome and you are trying to decide what to wear, throw a black shirt on, throw a black jersey on. They threw some black signs over the seats. They're really going for the blackout vibe. I don't know if it's going to work. Usually when you're going for a color, you're going for one that'll stand out on TV. But hey, if it works, it works. Hopefully this is kind of a thing that you can get behind, and maybe this blackout thing can work. But we'll see. We got about an hour 15 until kickoff. So let's see. We got another blackout. Everyone's talking about the blackout. Hopefully it works. I'm rooting for it. Hopefully it works better than One Bow Down. Remember when Pierre was out there banging the drum? He stopped doing that. It didn't work. Can't force these things. Got to be natural. Anyway. Well, congratulations. That's exciting. Solid jersey, because he's not going anywhere. It's always nerve-wracking when you get a jersey and you're like, wow, is this guy going to be here next year? I don't think you have to worry about that with Cam's jersey. You could put that in a frame, hang it on the wall. It's going to be there for a while. All right. Michael Nelson, book time. I can't tell if that's like a pun or a joke. Could have said story time. Opening the book, turning the page, a new chapter. Yeah, I could go on all day, but that's what I'm going to stick with. If you come up with any good ones, make sure to throw them in there. They're always fun. Lee Good says, take a deep breath. I don't know if that's referring to me specifically because I talk fast and sometimes I forget to breathe, but it's always good advice. Breathe. I usually go with pump the brakes, which I guarantee you I will post on Twitter at least once, and we'll get into why we need to pump the brakes a little bit on Ian Book, as we go forward. But yeah, always good advice. Remember to breathe. Yeah, I think this is kind of an interesting thing. And, you look at Trevor Siemian, you look at Jameis Winston, you look at Taysom Hill. It very much seemed like there was 50-50. Man, he's the best quarterback ever. Man, he's going to be great. Man, whatever. And then there was another, it was like, wow, he's horrible. He should never start another game. Play the other guy. In this case, I don't know if it's because there's no other guy. No one's clamoring for Blake Bortles to get in the game. The Saints did sign Blake Bortles as a veteran backup. Alvin Kamara, will be the emergency quarterback. Who knows? Maybe that's something we end up seeing. But I think there's a very overwhelming majority of people saying, hopefully Ian has what it takes. Hopefully he is the quarterback the Saints saw. Hopefully he shows kind of the flashes that led the Saints to pick him in the fourth round. He's a guy who knows how to win games. He won the most games in Notre Dame history. He's played on the big stage. He's played in the college football playoff. He won, 40-something games throughout his Notre Dame career with now LSU coach Brian Kelly. This is a guy who I don't think will be, outdone by the moment. I don't think the stage is going to shut him down mentally. But I would have said the same thing about Jake Fromm, who went out and played for the Giants last week and laid an egg. So, it can happen. The biggest difference between Jake Fromm and Ian Book, beyond, playing for different schools and being completely different people, Jake Fromm joined the Giants 2 weeks ago, learned the offense, got in there. Ian Book has been there the whole time. He's been taking mental reps, as he calls them, and I think that's a big factor in, the Giants. I'm sure Jake Fromm was happy to get the opportunity. They did not put him in a position to succeed, and it showed. The Saints, out of pure necessity, are forced to do the same thing with Ian Book, and hopefully the extra preparation he's been able to get throughout the course of the offseason will help avoid him from fromming, if that's a understandable verb. Okay, let's move on. I assume this is about the Cam Jordan jersey. Happy for you, bud. Is Mark Ingram on the Jim Jones list? I don't know if that's a joke or if it's a reference. I'm not familiar with. If you're talking about the COVID list, Mark Ingram is not on the COVID list. Anyway, moving on. Oh, we're still talking about jerseys. Okay. I usually try to shoot this down. I don't think that the NFL has it out for the Saints, but man, they do make zero effort to make it look like to make it look the opposite way. It just happens over and over again. I mean, the NFL said just to backtrack a little bit. The NFL sent out a memo 10 days ago explaining why they were implementing a flexible response and postponing 3 games due to COVID because of active transmission and health and safety concerns. A week and a half later, they are allowing this game to happen with the Saints literally having 4 positive tests yesterday. Dennis Lauscha tested positive today. Quan Alexander went on the list today. What changed in 10 days where we're postponing games because of the exact same thing happening, and now we're playing this game? It just makes zero sense. It is the most hypocritical thing you could do in this circumstance. The only news we got today regarding a game change was the NFL changing the Week 17 start time from noon to 3:25. They didn't even make a statement saying we're not changing the time of the game. They just ignored it completely. They turned their head around and lived out the "this is fine" meme while they're sitting in a fire. And it's mind-boggling. And, I don't think the NFL has it out for the Saints. I think the NFL really wants money. And the thing is, this isn't even about the Saints. If you from a competitive perspective, sure, it would have probably benefited the Saints to have an extra day to hopefully get these players back. But as we saw today, none of them came back. I don't know what would have changed in 24 hours beyond you're able to at least mitigate some of the spread a little bit, because you're not talking about impacting the Saints here. You're talking about the Dolphins. The Saints situation isn't going to change whether you play the game or not. What happens next week when the Dolphins have 20 positives? Because you played this game on Monday and refused to just give it 1 day to at least make an effort. It's just bad. It's just bad all the way around. Anyway, moving on. Don't need to rant about that the whole time. Yeah, so I got into this a little bit earlier. This question came in a little while ago, and I think I covered it. But yeah, nobody came off the COVID list. You have 21 players that went on it, 21 players that are still on it. Saints have about 48 active players, maybe 52 with the signings. They brought in a couple guys to the practice squad and elevated them. Few injuries and things could get bleak. That's all I got to say. Oh, let's see. I'd have to check on this. I believe you, but let's see. If he was declared out, that just happened. So I just want to confirm. Yep, it's correct. Teron Armstead is inactive. Saints announced it a few minutes ago while we were on here. So yeah, that's that's a blow. That's a blow for the Saints. Jordan Mills is on IR or is on the COVID list. Another one of those guys. So along with the defense, you got the offensive line. A lot of people like to complain about Cesar Ruiz. He's the only offensive lineman who has played in every game this season. So at least availability is on his side. I do appreciate that Ian Book has like a built-in meme or a built-in emoji that you can use to hype him with the rainbow. And I don't know if you saw Drew Brees. The Saints did call Drew Brees, or reports early in the week. They called Drew and say to see if maybe they could coax him out of retirement for at least one game to come back and see what happened. He took a few throws outside. He tested the arm, and he said no. And he sent back a photo of himself golfing in Hawaii with a rainbow over his head. And I can only assume that Ian Book sent that there as a thank you for not taking away my chance to start. Anyway. But yeah, I think you'll see a lot of rainbow emojis early on in this one. The first time Ian Book completes a pass, everyone will lose their mind and tweet rainbows all day long. But hopefully they continue. Let's see, just going through, trying to make sure that I get all the comments, questions that are not, responding to other people. Less concerned about Ian from Watch Me Now, hyphenated. Less concerned about Ian and more concerned about interior with 20 other players out. I think when you say the interior, I assume you're talking about the offensive line. And yeah, I mean, yeah. One of the main reasons that I was very, very bullish on Ian Book not playing this season was just the state of the offensive line and the situation you would be throwing him into as a rookie with confidence building that you would just be asking to be just shattered. If you don't trust the offensive line, because one of the things you just don't understand as a rookie in the NFL is just how fast everything goes. And the checks you need to make at the line, the checks you need to understand to make in order to succeed and in order to allow your offensive line to succeed. If you go back to that week 2 game against the Panthers, the issue wasn't the Saints offensive line not being able to play NFL caliber football, to be able to block at an NFL level. The issue was the checks weren't being made. The communication wasn't there. The understanding of where everyone needed to be wasn't at a high enough level to successfully protect the quarterback and to allow him the time necessary to throw the ball downfield. Time after time after time, the Panthers overloaded one side. They dropped out one into coverage. They rushed 2, and the Saints just had nothing for it. They were just turned all the way around, and that's about making the right checks. It's something that you look at Drew Brees and you say, okay, what is an element of Drew Brees' game that probably went unnoticed, definitely went unnoticed, and it was the checks and the offensive line work that he was doing pre-snap to make sure the protection was where it needed to be so he could execute the play against the look that he had identified, right? If the protection isn't there, doesn't matter if you know the look, doesn't matter if you know where to go with the ball. If you don't have the time to throw it there, if you don't have the time to set and deliver it. And that's what happened week 2, and that's what you have to be concerned about going into this game and going into any game with Ian Book, knowing that you don't have either of your tackles, you don't have Andrews Pete. You basically have an offensive line of Eric McCoy, Cesar Ruiz, and guys you would not have started otherwise. I think James Hurst is fine. I think Calvin Throckmorton has played well. Those are not the guys that you want to throw in a rookie for his debut. I'm sorry, they're just not. And we'll see what happens, but it's a scary thing. It's a scary thing. Just check. All right. Let's see any more. I'm not sure what that means. I have to look up the Notre Dame logo. Hold on. I want to figure this out. Because the Notre Dame logo is an N and a D. So not sure how you can be standing like that. But hey, if you can pull it off, more power to you. Yeah, so TRU, Louisiana Animal. It's quite a name. Coming from YouTube. I saw they got Kamara as an emergency QB for this game after just recently signing Bortles for that. Okay, so everyone's going to run with the Kamara as the emergency QB headline. You'll see it on Yahoo. You'll see it all over the place. That's nothing new. That was the case in week 8. You have so many quarterbacks on the roster. If they all go down, which is a possibility, right? You could have 5 quarterbacks on the roster. They all get hurt. Someone has to go in and play quarterback that isn't a quarterback. So there's always going to be someone. So it's going to be one player who gets that honor of being the emergency quarterback. It doesn't mean that, you're ahead of anybody else. And it doesn't mean that he's ahead of Blake Bortles here. It's just a fact. He's the emergency quarterback if they need one. If Ian Book gets hurt, I assure you it'll be Blake Bortles going in the game. But, keep in mind that Alvin Kamara, as a Wildcat quarterback, might give you a better chance to win a game than Blake Bortles knowing 3 days worth of the offense. So, that's nothing new. It's not a situation where anything changed. It's just the facts that Alvin Kamara is your emergency quarterback if you need him, because he wants to be. He wants to throw a pass. He's ready for it. He's been begging for it for years. And it's nothing new. I don't think that it's gonna be a factor tonight unless somebody gets hurt. Which, if Ian Book gets hurt and you have to go with Blake Bortles, it's gonna be ugly. I mean, and it's nothing against Blake Bortles. It's against the idea that someone can walk into an offense 3 days, 3 days earlier and have any idea, how to even check at the line, how to call an audible. Well, what's the play? How do you call the play? The language in the Saints offense is very complex. When I asked Ian Book about it in the offseason, he told me that he would spend, the nights in the hotel room and talk to himself in the mirror, make play calls in the mirror because he had to learn the language. It is like learning another language, and the Saints have some of the most complex terminology in their playbook of any team in the NFL. And I don't think you want to see Blake Bortles have to do that on 3 days, being with the team for 3 days. Well, that is certainly optimistic. I will say that if you had to go into a game with this circumstance, you'd much prefer it to be a team that is not familiar with you. You don't want it to be a rivalry game. You don't want it to be a game against the Bucs or the Panthers or the Falcons. You want it to be kind of one of these weird matchups that could go either way. That could, it's a weird energy game. Miami's just not a team you face very often, so they don't have a ton of familiarity with what you want to do on offense with kind of Sean Payton as a play caller. So I think if you had to pick a game that wasn't, maybe, you probably would have picked the Jets. But, if you had to pick one of these matchups in the final 5 weeks of the season, I think this is one that you can live with if you had to be in the situation, which, you don't get the choice. But all right. We need a miracle. I don't think that's true. It's a 3-point line. The Saints went in as 3-point favorites. They're now 3-point underdogs at the last I checked. I don't think you need a miracle. I don't. I think you just need to get fortunate. You need the ball to bounce your way. You need Brett Maher to make kicks. That's going to be important. If the Saints can kick field goals, and I'm talking longer field goals, if they're in a situation where they can kick a 55-yard field goal and make it and get that kind of momentum swing, which they have not been able to do yet this season, that can change this type of game because you're going to need it to be low scoring. And you're going to need to get an early lead, I think, to just like last week. You get ahead and you can pin your ears back on defense and try to impact what the offense is trying to do, make them get outside of their comfort zone because they're trying to make a comeback. And I think that's how the Saints can win this game. I don't think they win this game by getting behind by 2 scores in the first half. I just don't. You are really excited about that jersey, and I'm happy for you, man. Happy for you. If you have a Twitter account, send me a picture of it on Twitter. I'll retweet you. It's at Jeff_Nowak, Nowak. Jerry's ready for the blackout. Hopefully y'all are too. I do. I appreciate that. I'm gonna tweet that after I get off here. It's time for story time with Ian Book. I wouldn't hate it. The Saints have, for whatever reason, been really hesitant to embrace Alvin Kamara as the snap getter. He hasn't got. I don't think he's got a direct snap all season. It's tougher to do with Taysom Hill as quarterback because, it's just kind of a weird setup because if you're going to have a QB run, it makes more sense to have Taysom be the guy to do it. And again, it's tough to do with Taysom Hill at all in there because, again, if you're going to have someone take a direct snap and run the ball, you'd like to be someone who's familiar with taking the snap and is an excellent runner. Alvin Kamara is an excellent runner, but he's not a guy who regularly takes the snap. So you're asking for problems if you're just throwing that in there. But I think tonight is a night where you could definitely see some Wildcat, and I would argue you should. You should see some Wildcat. You should see some plays where it's just Alvin Kamara and a whole bunch of blockers. Right? I mean, come on. Throw Ethan Wolf out there, throw Nick Vannett out there, throw Marcos Callaway out there, and throw whoever else, Mark Ingram and a fullback, and go. See what you can get done. Make the Dolphins stop it. They're not a great run-stopping team, and if you can just consistently roll up 4 or 5 yards with a power set like that on first down, do it. I don't care if you're predictable. we're past the point of predictability. When you lose 20 players on your roster, you're already predictable because you can't do a ton of things that you want to be able to do. So do the things you can do the things you know you can do, and then work back from there. That's how I would approach this game. I probably have a lot more confidence in Ian Book going out and doing this tonight than I would in a lot of other rookie quarterbacks. And I think that's saying something about just what Ian Book has, just his kind of stature, how he carries himself, how he speaks with the media. And, it could be a mirage. Some guys are really good at doing the whole media thing, and then they go out there and they struggle. So it doesn't mean anything at all in terms of the way he's going to do on the field. But, I'm cautiously optimistic. Let's put it that way. I think this might be responding to somebody, but yeah, I mean, I think you need to see Ian Book get the ball to the edges of the field. You want one thing the Saints have not done virtually any of this year are just throw swing passes to Alvin Kamara. I don't know why. I really don't. I mean, obviously he missed 4 games, so you couldn't do it then. And Mark Ingram isn't the guy that you're going to be targeting on swing passes all the time. But I think Mark Ingram actually has caught a couple, and I just haven't seen Alvin Kamara catch those like wide checkdowns where he can just kind of see where everyone is, and then just casually pick his way the way he did against the Packers last year. If you remember that long touchdown against the Packers on Sunday Night Football, that's the type of play you haven't seen for whatever reason, and I think part of it is because, the last 2 games you had Taysom Hill, who isn't going to throw that check down because he's going to run in those situations. So, maybe that's something you can work back in today and take a bit of advantage of. But I agree. He's got to be able to make that throw to the sideline. Yep. I'm going to stop ranting about it. It's annoying. It bothers me. But, guys, at this point, just got to see the game. But I appreciate that, Jake. Yeah, we're still talking about this. Yeah, and they're not only the hardest throw, they're the most dangerous throw, right? And that in turn makes them one of the harder throws because you have to be so accurate with them. And they're one of the most dangerous throws because, you see it all the time. Defensive backs are sitting back. If they're anticipating that throw and you don't get it there with the velocity necessary to get it past them, they break on it, they catch it in stride, and they're gone. Darius Slay did it against the Saints a few weeks back. Trevor Siemian was throwing it to the sideline. Darius broke on it. And those are tailor-made pick 6 balls, and that's why you have to be precise with them and you have to get them out on time and on target because those are where pick 6 happen. Pick 6s happen. Pick 6s. Yeah, that's the plural. And that's where you have to be really careful as a quarterback. Let's see. Man, we're still getting these comments. I appreciate y'all. Throw the book at him. I like it. I appreciate that. That's a good one. That's a good one, Jason. Yeah. I might steal that later, but I will say I'll credit that to you because it's solid. Will we see any design QB runs? I'm not sure what that last part is. I'll just go with will we see any designed QB runs? And I think that you will see some designed action out of the backfield. I don't know if they're going to be runs, but I think you're going to see some designed rollouts, some designed bootlegs, which are kind of naturally inclined to turn into a run if the options are covered downfield, right? It's just that kind of classic play where you run a hard play action, the quarterback kind of spins out and gets to the side of the field, and you just survey. It's usually a way to run a shot play without going with a traditional 7-step drop where you're just standing in the pocket. I think you will see some of that, and I think you will be impressed with the mobility that Ian Book has. But I don't think that you can confidently send him on runs where he's going to get hit. I don't think you're going to see the QB power runs. Both he and Nick Vannett both said, I don't think you're going to see any QB powers. So although they both said that they think that he could run those, I think it's just a matter of you have no quarterback depth and you cannot afford to lose Ian Book to a play that gets you 4 or 5 yards. I think you might see some quarterback sneaks. I think you might see a few scrambles, but you're not going to see situations where the Saints just say, heck, let's just throw Ian Book at him, throw the book at him, if you will. Because they need to make sure he gets out of this game alive. and remember, there's no guarantee a lot of these guys come back next week. Not only do you still have 21 players on COVID, you now have 6 days to prepare. So there's a chance that Ian is out there again against the Panthers. So you have to be really careful with how you protect him and make sure he doesn't take any hits. If you remember back when Johnny Manziel was a young whippersnapper over with the Browns, he got hurt running a play that almost looked designed to get him hurt. Just a naked bootleg to the edge. There was no one to throw to. It was probably a broken play, but the design of it was just like, why are you trying to get this man injured? And those are the type of plays that you just don't want to see. You have so many players out. You got to keep things simple, but be smart. So, yeah, Demario Davis and Quan Alexander are out, I believe. I don't know the status of Zach Bond, but you'll have Andrew Dow and you'll have Pete Werner, and they'll probably get the start. Those are going to be the guys you hear a lot of. And, Andrew Dow has been a good player. He's flashed all throughout camp. He's always making a play. I just don't know if he can cover the way you need to at the NFL level. But he can make tackles. He can get in the backfield. That's why I think you're going to see aggressive play from the Saints when they're out of a base set or whatever the closest thing they'll run to a base set. Because he can make tackles. He can get up there and he can make a play. And he's very nifty when it comes to punching the ball out, tackles for loss, getting in the backfield, making guys miss. So, I think you're going to need to see those negative plays and make Tua kind of run for his life a little bit. Pete Werner, second round pick. This has got to be where you kind of make do. You've had 16 weeks to kind of get up to speed in the NFL. He's healthy, and I think this is his time. This is his moment to kind of validate the Saints taking him there, and not just being from Ohio State. Do you think we will win by more than 3? Why? They're 3-point underdogs. If they lose by less than 3, that's a winning bet. I don't think the Saints win this game, let alone win by 3. But I think there is a route to winning this game, and it's a very tight game. I don't think you're going to see the Saints win this game by 2-3 scores, regardless of what happens. Even if they win this game, they're probably going to have to do it with field goals. They're going to have to do it with turnovers and good defense. Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, and I enjoy doing these. I like hearing from y'all. So it's always cool when I see this many comments because, it gives me something to talk about. But I think we're about going to the end. We got about 45 minutes till kickoff, so I do need to let y'all go and get ready for the game. But again, it looks like, we missed out on Deuce. I think he had a scheduling conflict. So unfortunately, we will not get that. I'll have to check in with him, try to make sure we get it on, get our router synced up for next week. But this has been the Bud Light Ingredients to Saints Success live chat. The Bud Light has its ingredients proudly printed on the label. That's hops, barley, water, and rice. If you get to enjoy a few of those, make sure, have one for me. I'll be here going through the game. Follow me on Twitter at Jeff_Nowak. Make sure to follow WWL Radio on Facebook, Twitter at WWLAMFM. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube if you haven't already. If you're watching elsewhere, I'll pop up the channel for you below. Make sure to check that out. Always a good time, daily video updates. And we'll go from there. Make sure to follow the latest headlines over at WWL.com. And check out the broadcast with Mike Hoss and Deuce McAllister. This starts at about 7:15 over on WWL AM 870 FM 105.3. If you want to tune in beforehand, you got the pregame show until kickoff. That's going to be Bobby Hebert and Mike Detillier. Christian Garrick is not in, but they'll bring you up to kickoff, and then we'll see what happens on Monday Night Football over on ESPN. And, thanks for everyone who tuned in, everyone who dropped in a comment question. Happy for anyone who won a signed Cam Jordan jersey. You know who you are. But, kickoff, and the book is ready to open. All right, peace.